Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 55. The first festival after being together. It's a little expensive. LIAN wore a look of agreement. A few thin pieces of streaky pork are also 2 wen. Chen Si, who stood a few steps away outside to serve the hot pot guests and looked disdainfully at the two, speechless. Where did these people came from? Don't eat here if it's too expensive for you. Moreover, the meatballs on each skewer are of the same size. Is it necessary to scrutinize it that much? Without looking up, Mian said slowly, out to the right is where the steamed stuffed buns are being sold. Up ahead are people selling noodles and sesame seed pancakes. Zhao Shi stopped talking. Lei Xiangli blushed in embarrassment due to his second brother and second sister-in-law's antics. He said in a loud voice, "Another customer is coming. Hurry up, take your pick and cook them first." Zhao Shi and LIAN did not talk anymore and sped up their selection of dishes. Qianqi had already chosen the dishes she wanted without a word. Anyway, all the money they made today would be given to Du Shi. Right now, she would be a fool if she did not have something to eat. Seeing that her husband only picked vegetable dishes, she cut a look at him and helped him to pick again. She picked more meat dishes for him. Lei Xiangji smiled gently. Qianqi's face turned red. LIAN and Zhao Shi took a look at the small baskets in their hands. Not to be outdone, they picked all meat dishes. Once they checked out, the total was 62 wen. It was 50 wen after 20% discount. LIAN and Zhao Shi were so distressed that they frowned. On second thoughts though, when they recalled that this money came from Du Shi, the load in their heart lightened up. After eating, the group drove the carts home. Out of town, the road was quiet that only the jingling of the bell on the donkey's neck could be heard. LIAN lightly shouted out "ah," which attracted the attention of Lei Xiangji and Lei Xiangli. "Erguer, what is it?" Lei Xiangji asked. LIAN pondered, "Lao San, Lao Si, I've an idea. You two listen and think about it." Zhao Shi and Qianqi both looked over. "Just say what you want to say, Erguer," Lei Xiangji said in annoyance. LIAN said, "Today, we've made a net profit of 160 wen. After taking out 50 wen for the meal, there is still 110 wen left. I think, us 3 brothers can split 20 wen each and give the rest to mother. What do you two think? You see, I have 2 children. I don't even usually have money to buy them snacks." Lei Xiangji sneered and said, "Who would believe you? I don't believe you give all the money you earned previously doing manual work to mother." LIAN glared, "If you're keen on saying that, you must be the same. Otherwise, how do you know I did it?" Lei Xiangji did not speak. Lei Xiangli was secretly depressed. Could he be the only one honest enough to give his mother all the money he earned? LIAN tried again with a placating tone, "Who hasn't been selfish? Aren't you often saying that you don't have money to buy snacks for Xingxin? As for Lao Si, it's time for you to get married. You need to save more money, right? When the new wife joins the household but you've no money to even buy a flower for her, you'll lose face." Lei Xiangli's face felt hot as he urgently replied, "If you want to say something, just say it. Don't talk nonsense." "Oh, Si Lang is still shy." Zhao Shi laughed out loud. Lei Xiangji and Qianqi exchanged a meaningful look. "I've no objection," Lei Xiangji said with a bitter smile. "You know that mother doesn't like our Xingxin. Up to now, we can count the number of times she eats snacks on one hand, in exception of festivals." After he and LIAN reached the same opinion, both looked at Lei Xiangli. Although Lei Xiangli felt that it was not good to cheat Du Shi, he did not object to it. "Quit it. I've no objection." Thus, each of them smiled tacitly and immediately took 20 wen each to keep. Then, they talked about other topics leisurely. After work ended in the evening, Mian gave 5 wen to Chen Si, asking him to send snacks to Zhenglu and Wang Shun, to express sympathy and solicitude for them on behalf of himself and Lei Tie. Qin Mian reserved some dishes and rice for him and Lei Tie, which he used to cook fried rice on the still-burning stove to fill their stomach. Only then did they drive the cart home. At this moment, the sky was pitch black with the nearly full moon hung in the sky. The moonlight was light and soft, and the white clouds floated quietly around, making the curtain of night even darker. Qin Mian looked back and said, "Is it my imagination? Why do I think there's someone following behind us?" Not to mention that he and Lei Tie were on the mountain road. The mountains on both sides were very quiet, which was really a little horrifying. "We've got company." Lei Tie calmly spoke. Qin Mian was taken aback. "Who?" "The people who covet our recipe." "Don't worry." Lei Tie pressed down Qin Mian's hand and gently pulled the reins. The ox stopped. The sound of ox's hooves and the rolling of wheels disappeared. The night sky became more silent. A gust of wind blew and Qin Mian could not help but shiver. Lei Tie motioned for him to sit still in the cart. Then he jumped out of the cart silently, walked to the middle of the road, and calmly looked behind the cart. Qin Mian inexplicably thought of the scene where the martial arts masters were about to face each other in the martial arts genre novels. Since Lei Tie looked very calm, he was not nervous anymore. He turned around in the cart and looked at the distance curiously. 4 big stout men with sturdy rods in their hands approached quickly. Seeing a dark figure standing in the middle of the road, they did not run away. They looked at each other and vaguely felt that something was wrong. After a moment's hesitation, they still held up their rods while quickly approached and came to a stop 2 zhang away. Note: zhang is a unit of measure which is about 3.3 meters. Lei Tie, Qin Mian, you two must know why we came here. If you are wise, give up the soup recipe. One of them threatened with a rod. Lei Tie's figure flashed. Qin Mian heard a scream before he could see any movement. When he looked carefully, the man who had just spoken was kneeling on the ground with his hands and arms stretched out behind his back in a strange shape. He was continuously shaking and his face's muscles distorted into an ugly look. The stick in his hand had gone somewhere. The remaining 3 were so shocked that they did not dare to step forward. Even Qin Mian, who had drunk the spiritual spring water, could not see Lei Tie's movement, so the 3 were even less likely to see it because they were more frightened by the unknown. With a sly smile, Qin Mian raised his voice as he said, "Lei Tie, I didn't see it. When dealing with the next one, slow down so I could learn." The 3 men shivered at the same time. "All right." Lei Tie's right foot only briefly touched on the ground before he flashed out and stood behind the second man. His right hand made 3 quick strokes in a certain position on the man's arms. The second person reacted the same as the first. He cried out in pain and fell to the ground. No matter how hard he tried, he could not stand up. He looked at Lei Tie with fear, his voice trembled, You. What have you done to me?" Lei Tie said, "This is just a small lesson. You won't be able to move for 3 days. Go back and tell your boss, if he dares to be presumptuous again, I'll turn him into a soft dough and make him unable to take care of himself for a lifetime. If he doesn't believe it, he can try at any time." He spoke slowly and in a flat tone, but that was what made him more intimidating. However, Qin Mian burst out laughing. Has this guy been inhaling the smell of smoke in the restaurant for a long time? He can even think of dough as an analogy. The remaining 2 people no longer had the courage to fight. They carried the injured 2 people and flee in disorder. "Let's go." Qin Mian called Lei Tie to get on the cart, "It's so cold." Lei Tie got on the cart and they continued to hurry on their way. Hire another accountant instead of going to the shop every day. He had long found that his wife get cold easily. When they slept at night, Qin Mian would persistently burrowed into his arms. Qin Mian hesitated. It was not that he was reluctant to spend money to hire people from the ancient times. Hire an accountant. What if he covets the money? Slave contract and death deed. LIAN said indifferently. Mian was stunned. Slavery was an acceptable practice in feudal society, but it was a little hard for him to accept the concept having lived in modern times. He hesitated for a moment and then agreed to it. As the saying went, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It would be too pretentious to live in such a society but live up to the human rights as he had known it. It's good idea to buy an accountant. Later, we can go to the shop when we want to and stay at home in winter when we don't want to. They went to the brokerage and bought a man named Yudong. He was 20 years old who could write and calculate. It costed 15 silver taels to buy Yudong. After the money has been paid, Yudong's slave contract also went in Mian's hands. The shop was too small to live in. Mian did not want outsiders to live at home, so he reserved a bunk for Yudong in the communal bed of the inn. Although it was not convenient now, everything would be rearranged after the new year. The staffs in the restaurant had a clearer division of labor. Before the shop opened, Zhang Lu, Shi Tiaoyu and Wang Shun were responsible for washing and skewing dishes, Yudong and Chen Si were responsible for stewing and chopping meat to make meatballs. After the meatballs were ready, they also helped to wash and skewer dishes. After the shop opened, Chen Si was responsible for barbecue, Shi Tiaoyu was responsible for spicy hot soup, and Zhang Lu and Wang Shun were responsible for welcoming customers and serving dishes. Yudong was only responsible for collecting money. After observing Yudong for several days, Mian found that he was calm and careful. He simply gave Yudong the key to the shop and asked him to hold concurrent posts as a manager and be in charge of stocking up. Yudong did not expect that the two bosses would value him so much since it hadn't been long. Since then, he had become more diligent and responsible. After the shop was handed over, Mian and LIAN only needed to send enough seasonings to the shop every few days and occasionally visit the shop to check the account books. When he did not go to the shop, Mian stayed at home and wrote a plan to make a fortune in the coming year. Meanwhile, LIAN went to the mountain every 2 days and each time, he brought great harvest. Mian discovered that LIAN liked this current life better than going to work in the shop all the time. In these past few days, he had caught more than enough prey for them to celebrate the new year. A portion of it was sent to the shop, and the rest were salted and hung on the beam to dry. Don't go up the mountain today. It's the winter solstice. Mian watched LIAN wash the ingredients for breakfast, with a smile on his face. He did not know when it started, but every time he cooked, the man would take the initiative to wash rice, trim and wash vegetables, and even cut the vegetables. All Mian had to do was the last process. Winter solstice. LIAN thought that it was no wonder he smelled all kinds of aroma in the village early in the morning. The ancients believed that on winter solstice, the light force of heaven and earth began to develop and become stronger, which represented the beginning of the next cycle. It was a very auspicious day. Therefore, the winter solstice was a very important traditional festival. On this day, people would make some delicious food to celebrate, and at the same time, it also signified that the future would be better. The miserly and the poor also had to cook something delicious. Otherwise it would be considered unlucky. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 56. Deliver dumplings. We'll eat something in the morning and make dumplings at noon. Mian was in high spirits. Today was the first time he was going to eat dumplings since he transmigrated. Dumplings. LIAN looked at him inquisitively. Mian was astonished. Could there be no such delicacy as dumplings in this world? You'll find out later. All right. LIAN nodded and gave up the idea of going up the mountain. Winter solstice was the first festival after he and his wife got together, so it should be celebrated properly. Mian made a pot of stewed noodles with the ingredients LIAN had dealt with. After breakfast, he asked LIAN to knead dough, while he prepared the dumpling stuffing. He remembered that his grandmother used to wrap the dumplings with deep-fried pork dough sticks and blindweed stuffing. The blindweed were fresh and tender and the pork was savory. When mixed together, the taste was excellent. It was too troublesome to make deep-fried dough sticks. Mian mixed the flour with water into watery dough and added 8 eggs. He stirred them evenly, spread them out in the oiled wok and fried them into thin egg pancakes. Afterward, he cut them into small pieces. Next, he chopped pork into small pieces. There was no blindweed, so instead, he used green vegetables and chopped them up. He stir-fried these with chopped scallion and ginger in the wok until it was half-cooked before adding the proper amount of salt. After he made sure it was evenly mixed, the savory dumpling stuffing was done. After the dough was made, Mian took a lump of dough, kneaded it into a tube shape and then cut it into small dough pieces with a knife. Next, he used a rolling pin to roll them into thin slices, making the dumpling wrappers. LIAN was in charge of rolling the dumpling wrappers after he learned how to do it. Meanwhile, Mian wrapped the dumplings while warming himself beside the charcoal stove. He placed a dumpling wrapper in the center of his left palm, used a small spoon to scoop out dumpling stuffing and put it on the wrapper. Then, he closed the dumpling wrapper and pinched it tightly. A dumpling was wrapped in a few seconds and placed in a large clean sieve. LIAN's hand quickly rolled a dozen dumpling wrappers and Mian wrapped them all together. After the dumpling wrappers were used up, he continued to roll them up. After an hour later, nearly 200 plump white dumplings covered the whole sieve. Make fire and prepare to cook the dumplings, Mian ordered. LIAN ignited the stove, scooped a few ladle of water into the wok and covered it. How many do you want to eat? Mian asked. More than 100 dumplings could not be eaten by 2 people in one meal. LIAN looked at the dumplings and said without hesitation, 50. Mian was a little skeptical, can you finish that much? LIAN's mouth was agape, they were quite small. Mian's sharp eyes found that LIAN's ears were a little red, and he could not help but smothered his laugh, what's so embarrassing? I don't dislike it that you eat much. We can afford it, don't worry. LIAN nodded. Mian felt uncomfortable when LIAN replied so seriously. After the water boiled, he was still unable to bear it and wanted to laugh when he picked up the dumplings to put into the wok, cough. We'll first cook enough for us to eat. Then we'll cook another batch to send to the old house and eldest Uncle Jiang's house. At that time when we split from the family, eldest Uncle Jiang gave us eggs and we have yet to reciprocate that gesture. Today is our chance. LIAN nodded. When the dumplings were out of the wok, Mian ate 35 of them. It was quite delicious. If it was not that his stomach could not be filled anymore, he would like to eat more. LIAN easily wiped out 50 pieces of dumpling and even added 5 more. Mian picked up the second batch of dumplings one by one to put into 2 large bowls and then the bowls were stored in a food box. Are you going or not? Mian asked. Go together. LIAN picked up a silvery grey scarf on the back of the chair and put it around Mian. He went out after Mian and locked the door. The two walked all the way surrounded by the smell of meat, fish, and oil from every household. There was hardly anyone on the road and none of the naughty children who usually like to run around, could be seen. There was delicious food at home, so the children were reluctant to go out. As they were about to arrive, LIAN asked, which house to go first? Mian said with a meaningful smile, as someone's children, of course we should go to our parents' house first. After entering the courtyard gate of the old house, they saw the people were all sitting around the table in the central room. It looked like they were about to eat. LIAN did not sell soup today. Lei Xiangji took a holiday and was at home. The large family was talking and laughing, it was very lively. Mian greeted in a loud voice, Father, Mother, we're here. Are you all already eating? Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Chuntao all stood up to greet them. Degur, Eldest sister-in-law. Lei Daqiang's attitude today was surprisingly good. He smiled while nodding, Wai Lang and eldest daughter-in-law are here. Lei Tie nodded blankly as a greeting. Du Shi slightly glanced at him and Qin Mian and without getting up spoke, I don't know you two are coming. I'm afraid the food is not enough. Qin Mian deliberately looked at the dishes on the table, there are so many dishes, adding 2 pairs of chopsticks should be no problem, no. Du Shi's expression changed. Zhao Shi chipped in, what is Dagur carrying? Qin Mian looked at Du Shi with a smile, we just came here after eating. Just now I was just joking with mother. We've brought some food here. Please get an empty large bowl or plate. Ah! As soon as Zhao Shi heard that there was food, she moved straight away and brought a large plate. Qin Mian took out the dumplings from the food box and poured them all into the plate. What is this, eldest sister-in-law? Qian Shi asked curiously. Qin Mian put the empty bowl back into the food box. It's a kind of food that was made with flour stuffed with meat. It's like meat-stuffed buns. Zhao Shi stared at the food box and said with a flattering smile, I seem to see another bowl. When Du Shi heard that, she stared at Qin Mian and used her eyes to tell that he'd better bring out the other bowl as well. Qin Mian had yet to speak but Lei Xiangren already could not wait, is it meat stuffing? Give father to taste first. Then he took the dumplings to the men's table, picked one up and put it into his mouth. After taking a tentative bite, he chewed it eagerly, it's delicious. Qin Mian said leisurely, the other bowl is for eldest Uncle Zhang next door. When we split up from the family, eldest Uncle Zhang gave us a basket of eggs, which could be described as a timely help. Erlang's wife, don't you agree that your eldest brother and I should return this favor? Oh, that's so. Zhao Shi was disappointed. Du Shi said while frowning, didn't you invite them to meal during housewarming? This dumpling doesn't need to be delivered, right? Lei Daqiang interrupted her, Wai Lang and eldest daughter-in-law are doing the right thing. Qin Mian chuckled, Father, we've been busy a while ago so we haven't had the chance to congratulate you. He was deliberately making Du Shi uncomfortable. Du Shi's face was as black as charcoal and her chest heaved sharply. Lei Daqiang laughed, feeling a little embarrassed but at the thought of Miss Wei, his pupils floated with joyous expression, do you want to eat some, together? Lei Xiangren and Lei Ziyangji ate several dumplings in a row. Zhao Shi said in a hurry, this dish is quite a lot. Mother, you divide it. Lei Ziyangli and Lei Ziyangji both looked at her with a straight face. Qin Mian snickered and stood up. Father, Mother, please eat slowly. We'll go and visit Grandpa Zhang. Arriving next door, they knocked on the courtyard gate. It was a 17-year-old boy who came to open the gate, tilting his head as he looked at Qin Mian and Lei Tie. Who are you looking for? Is eldest Uncle Zhang at home? Qin Mian raised his voice as he asked. Who is it? As soon as eldest Uncle Zhang came out of the house and saw Qin Mian, he laughed and said, Ah, it's you two. Come in and sit down. Eldest Uncle Jiang's son and daughter-in-law poked their heads from inside the house but they did not come out. It could be seen that they were not very welcome. Qin Mian did not go in. He just brought out the dumplings. Eldest Uncle Zhang, we still have something to do, so we won't go in. We haven't had a chance to thank you for the eggs you gave us last time. It's our homemade food. It's just a small token to show our respect to you. We're fellow villagers, why the need to be so courteous? Eldest Uncle Zhang was a little surprised and then he smiled that made the look in his eyes more amiable. It's not easy for two adult men to live together. You two keep the food for yourself. Qin Mian said, there's no need to be polite, eldest Uncle Zhang. We've made a lot. We brought this especially for you. If you don't accept it, it will get cold. All right. Seeing his insistence, eldest Uncle Zhang took the bowl and went to the kitchen. After a while, he took out the empty bowl with 2 plump Chinese cabbages. Yesterday, I passed by your vegetable garden and saw that the vegetables in the garden haven't grown up. You can take these 2 cabbages back to eat. It's not worth anything, so don't refuse them. Thank you, eldest Uncle Zhang. Seeing his kindness, Qin Mian accepted it generously. Lei Tie also said, many thanks. Watching the back of the 2 men who was leaving, eldest Uncle Zhang stood for a while before entering the house. Father, why are you being close to them? Eldest Uncle Jiang's son, Zhang Dehu, complained in a low voice. His daughter-in-law stood at the side. Although she did not say anything, she also had a look of disapproval on her face. Eldest Uncle Zhang sat down at the table, glanced at his wife, then put a peanut in his mouth and chewed it slowly. Ask your mother why. Elder Madame Zhang laughed and put her baby grandson into her embrace. Dehu, let me ask you. Did Lei Tie and his wife commit murder and arson? Zhang Dehu shook his head. Did they swindle people? Zhang Dehu said, there is no such thing. That's it. Elder Madame Zhang said gently, at the time when they split from the family, your father gave them a few eggs. Until now, they still remember it. One can see that they're grateful. At that time, they practically left with nothing, but now they run a shop in the town. I heard that they make a lot of money every day. Even the idea of selling soup at the Sixpence River by the brothers next door came from Lei Tie's wife. One can see that they are capable people. Zhang Dehu absorbed his parents' words in his mind. All right. Let's eat. Eldest Uncle Zhang laughed. You don't like to associate with them, but they don't necessarily like to associate with you. Zhang Dehu felt helpless. Was it necessary to belittle your son like that? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. When Qin Mian and Lei Tie walked into the alley where they lived, they saw Zhang Dashuan standing at the gate of their house with a plate. There was a bowl turned upside down on the plate. They quickened their pace. Zhang Xiang. Where did you 2 go? Zhang Dashuan smilingly said, I've been waiting for a while. Have you had lunch yet? Isn't it a holiday today? Your Zhang Ji made a cabbage stew and asked me to bring you 2 a bowl. Now it's still hot. Qin Mian opened the door and invited him in. We've eaten. We went to the old house just now. You and Zhang Ji are so thoughtful. Zhang Dashuan said, what is this worth? We haven't thanked you 2 for giving the job of making bamboo sticks to me. I've made a lot of money recently. It's enough for a good year. Zhang Xiang has taken care of us more often. Lei Tie said. Zhang Dashuan happily handed the plate to Qin Mian. Fine, I won't say anything. Our 2 families will take care of each other. Here, it'll taste better if it is reheated in the evening. Qin Mian took the plate to the kitchen and said to Lei Tie, you sit with Zhang Xiang. You went there. Zhang Dashuan smiled ambiguously as he said to Lei Tie, in a few days, Uncle Lei's second wife will join the household. That's his business. Lei Tie wore an uncaring expression. Zhang Dashuan did not comment. Lei Daqiang was the first person to marry a legitimate wife not just in the whole Green Mountain village but even in the whole running water town. He and his wife were still worried about what gifts to send. Since he had not eaten lunch yet, he just sat for a while and then went home with a bowl of raw dumplings. End chapter. Minwei Qinan. Chapter 57. Xiaoniang joins the household. Note, Xiaoniang denotes the younger mother and also refer to the other wife of one's father. In the twinkling of an eye, the wedding day of Lei Daqiang and Wei Wei arrived. Qin Mian and Lei Tie informed Yudong in advance that they would not go to the shop. Since that night when Lei Tie ruthlessly taught a lesson to those 2 men, no one looked for trouble with the restaurant anymore. There was nothing to worry about if they did not go to the shop for a few days. After breakfast, they dressed up and came to the old house together. Compared with the previous few days, there were some changes in the old house. There were 2 red lanterns hanging under the eaves of the courtyard gate. Several red double happiness characters were pasted at different positions on the courtyard gate, the central room and the external wall, suggesting the auspicious festivity. When Qin Mian walked closer, he looked at the house and wondered how the whole family would live after Miss Wei joined in. Could it be that every time Lei Daqiang wanted to be with Wei Shi, he would rush Du Shi to Lei Chuntao's room or divide his bed in two with a cloth curtain? At the thought of that kind of funny scene, Qin Mian laughed silently. The more he thought about it, the more he laughed. What are you laughing at? Lei Tie patted him on the head. Qin Mian promptly said, Nothing, nothing. There was still a smile on his face. Lei Tie did not ask any more and pulled him into the yard. The auspicious time was near dusk, and therefore the courtyard was still relatively quiet right at that moment. With regards to their father taking another wife, Lei Xiangren and the other younger generations were very embarrassed and quietly did things at hand. Dagur and eldest sister-in-law, you two are here. Lei Xiangli came over. Lei Tie waved his hand, continue with your work. Lei Xiangli sighed and went out of the courtyard. I'm going to borrow tables and chairs. Qin Mian and Lei Tie walked around. There was no need to help and they also did not want to see Du Shi's everyone owed her 500 taels face. Thus, they turned back home. Qin Mian suggested, let's go and buy some tofu and a fish. Although Green Mountain Village was far away from Running Water Town, there were wine workshop, tofu workshop, and fish farms in the village. It was very convenient to buy wine, tofu, and fish. In this regard, he thought it was not too bad that he transmigrated to Green Mountain Village. Lei Tie pointed his chin to the left side of the small path to let him go that way. Are Taixiong and Taiji going for a walk? Wu De came face to face as he teased. Lei Tie nodded slightly. Chuan Mian nodded politely to Wu De and the other three villagers who were walking with him. We're going to the other end of the village to buy tofu. Where are all of you going? Wu De said, I heard that old Zhao and his wife are fighting. We're going to try to stop people from fighting each other. Ha ha ha. Qin Mian said, Lao Zhao and his wife have a small fight every day and a big fight every 3 days. It's nothing new in our village, right? This married couple was a pair of wonder in their village. They would not feel comfortable without fighting for a day, but after each fight, they would still go out arm in arm the next morning. They behaved intimately, comparable to modern people. The villager all understood that the two had a good relationship, and fighting was more like a special way for them to express their feelings for each other. It's not the same this time, said a young man beside Wu De while laughing. It was said that this time is because Lao Zhao didn't go home last night but came back this morning with a red lips print on his clothes. Ha ha ha. Another person urged, quick, let's go have a look. Well, we're going first. Wu De waved his hand as he was pulled away. Qin Mian shook his head. This Wu De really did not act like a married man. The two slowly swayed forward and bought fish and tofu before going home. At noon, Qin Mian cooked 3 dishes, braised tofu, braised fish, and stewed cabbage with pork. As before, after Qin Mian ate his fill, Lei Tie cleaned up the rest of the rice and dishes. Why doesn't he get fat? Qin Mian was envious as he thought of this. After lunch, they took a walk to help digestion and then took a nap on the bed for a while. When they vaguely heard the sound of the festive suanas approaching, they quickly tidied up and went to the old house. As expected, it was the bride escorts returning home. The sound of firecrackers exploded outside the village, crackling for a long while. This sound of firecrackers told people that the bride was coming soon, reminded the family to prepare the welcoming of the bride, and also informed the guests that they could come now. At the old house, Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Zhao Shi, and Qian Shi greeted the guests at the door. The 3 Lei brothers were responsible for the male guests, Zhao Shi and Qian Shi were responsible for the female guests, and Lei Chuntao was responsible for entertaining the children. All of them were busy. Lei Xiangji was still in school. Meanwhile, Du Shi had not appeared. It was said that she was sick. Qin Mian and Lei Tie rushed forward to help, receiving gifts and inviting the guests to the courtyard. The escorts of the bridal procession were getting closer. At the front of the line were 6 men in red clothes. Some were beating gongs, some were playing drums, and some were blowing suanas with their cheeks bulging. How very festive! Behind them was Lei Daqiang, who was tied with a big red flower, grinning from ear to ear and looking like he was 10 years younger. Next to Lei Daqiang was a red 4-manned palanquin. Naturally, the bride was sitting in this palanquin. There were about 5 to 6 men and women behind the palanquin, in which they all carried new bamboo baskets with the character of double happiness pasted on them. Needless to say, the basket contained the bride's dowry that included rice, flour, cloth, brand new small furniture and such things. When the procession arrived in front of the gate, there was another burst of firecrackers, boom! Crack! Crack! Here comes the bride, the children screamed in excitement, frolicking and blocking the palanquin to prevent the palanquin from approaching the courtyard gate. Lei Daqiang had been prepared. He grabbed a few handfuls of sweets from a basket and threw them away. The children cheered and ran to pick up the sweets, and the palanquin landed smoothly at the gate. After getting off the palanquin, the bride and Lei Daqiang pulled along the red joy ribbon together as they entered the gate. The guests crowded in to watch the excitement. The yard was full of people making an unnecessary racket and loudly jeering. Qin Mian also wanted to get closer, but he could not find a good space. On tiptoe, he saw that after the bride stepped over the brazier, she and Lei Daqiang completed the ceremony according to the instructions of the first kowtow is for the heaven and earth, the second for the parents and the third for each other. After that, she was sent to the bridal chamber. Nevertheless, the kowtow for the parents was towards the memorial tablet of Lei Daqiang's parents. After the bride was sent to the bridal chamber, the bridegroom Lei Daqiang was pulled to drink by the villagers. Whether it was the host or the guests, they tacitly did not mention the reason for Duxi's absence. This was the busiest time. The hired cooks were cooking in an orderly manner. Qin Mian and Lei Tie arranged the guests to sit down and help serve the dishes. From time to time, Qin Mian looked towards the outside of the gate and whispered to Lei Tie, "Did they miss the time?" "Don't worry. It's been arranged." Lei Tie pacified. Almost at the same time as his words just finished, outside came the approaching sound of horses' hooves, and then someone shouted, "Eating savory restaurant offers 10 portions of spicy hot pot." The courtyard suddenly quieted down, and there were a few look of surprised, shocked, or admiration that fell on Qin Mian and Lei Tie at the same time. Lei Tie's face was expressionless while Qin Mian was smiling, maintaining the basic courtesy. After a short while, 10 energetic young men went into the courtyard one by one. The first 2 men each held 5 unlit charcoal stoves, followed by 2 men carrying a sack of charcoal together, 2 men carried 5 large double-eared pots, 2 men carried 4 bamboo baskets with different dishes, which were meatballs, fillets of fish, chicken pieces, quail eggs, mushrooms, vegetables, potatoes and tofu. The last 2 men jointly carried a bucket-like big wok. All the 10 men were hired by Qin Mian. The crowd stood gazing at each other and talked in low voices while hardly hiding their excitement. "Lao Lei's eldest son and eldest daughter-in-law have good prospects. This cost a lot. I think all those dishes will cost 700 to 800 yuan. Lei Tie and his wife are very kind. The father and stepmother forced them to split and move out, but they still didn't forget to observe filial piety." Hearing these words, the corner of Qin Mian's mouth invoked a subtle smile. After putting down the things, the 10 helpers put a charcoal stove on each table in an orderly manner, lit the charcoal and put the pot on it, poured the boiled thick soup, and then skillfully divided all kinds of hot pot dishes into 10 portions and distributed them to each table. "Lao Lei produced a good son, some people admiringly said. When Lei Daqiang's ears caught that, he felt proud. Blushing and laughing, he patted Lei Tie on the shoulder and said 3 good words of praise. However, he did not know that the supposedly sick Du Shi was hiding in the house, spying on the smiling and laughing people in the yard with red eyes. When she also saw Qin Mian's smiling face, she felt that everyone was laughing at her expense. Her hands clenched into fists as there was a burst of pain in her chest. The pain almost made her vomit blood. She squeezed a few words from between her teeth. Lei Daqiang. Xiao Shi, her sister-in-law, sat with her and quickly comforted her. Younger sister-in-law, there's nothing you can do about it. You should think positively. I'll go out and have a look. It was said that the hot pot was very delicious and she craved it very much. If she was a step slower, she might lose her share. Wei Wei, who was sitting in her new room, also heard someone shouting eating savory restaurant offers 10 portions of spicy hot pot outside, and the pretty face under the red veil gave a pleasant smile. Zhang Dashuan walked to Lei Tie and laughingly teased him, "You spent a lot today." Qin Mian minutely smiled and looked at the direction of the house with unclear meaning, as it should be. "Zhang Xiang, go and sit there." Lei Tie invited Zhang Dashuan to the table. After the 10 young men prepared the dishes, Qin Mian took out a string of money from his sleeve pocket and handed it over. "Great work. This is for you to buy wine for yourselves. You can all come back tomorrow morning to move things." "Many thanks, small boss." The group of guys joyfully expressed their thanks and left. At this time, the fire in the charcoal stove burned up, thus the smell of hot pot immediately became strong and attractive. The atmosphere in the courtyard, seemingly spurred by the aroma, turned enthusiastic. The villagers kept toasting Lei Daqiang and wished him a happy wedding. The 3 Lei brothers did not escape the fierce toasting either. Qin Mian escaped with the excuse that he could not drink. Lei Tie always had a cold face, so no one dared to pull him in. Therefore, the 2 men were able to dine leisurely. Occasionally, they invited young people such as Zhang Dashuan and Wu Di at the same table to drink and eat with them. Zhang Xiang. A flush-faced drunk villager at the same table patted Zhang Dashuan on the back. "I heard that you made bamboo sticks for Lei Tie's hot pot shop. Can you make a lot of money in a day?" Qin Mian and Lei Tie looked at each other and then bowed their heads to eat, acting as though they did not hear it. Zhang Dashuan's chopsticks paused for a moment before he went to pick up the dishes in the hot pot. Laughingly he said, "This is because my Lei Xiang and his wife think highly of me. Eat the dishes, eat the dishes." End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 58. The first confrontation of Du Shi and Wei Shi. "Yes, yes, it's Lei Xiang." That villager looked at Lei Tie again. He knocked the porcelain plate with his chopsticks and spoke with the scent of liquor in his breath. "Lei Xiang, we're all from the same village. If there's a chance to make a fortune, you've to show consideration to fellows. Am I right, everyone?" Lei Tie's expression slightly sunk. Qin Mian raised his eyebrows as he looked at that villager. The other people at the table were embarrassed and secretly scolded that villager for eating Lei Tie's hot pot but still running his mouth non-stop. Even if people really had a chance to get rich, they would consider their blood brothers or people who had a good relationship with them first. Who did they think they are? It simply disrupted the harmonious atmosphere at the table. Wu De hooked an arm around that villager's shoulder as he said with a smile, "Chu Xiang, don't just talk. Come, let's have another toast. Or are you afraid that Chu Ji will make you kneel on a broom when you go back? Who is afraid of her?" The man was stubborn, raised his glass and said in a loud voice, "Come, drink a mouthful. Come, drink again." A few others also came along. Qin Mian picked up his eating pace. After finishing, he took advantage of people's inattention to slip away, hid outside the gate of the courtyard and hooked his finger towards Lei Tie. Lei Tie silently put down the bowl and walked over. Qin Mian pulled him to leave for fear that someone else might have drank too much and asked them to show consideration to them. "I'm not yet full," Lei Tie honestly declared as he let himself be pulled by Qin Mian. The sun had just set. Most people had gone to the old house to attend the wedding reception, so it was very quiet all around. Mian promptly said, "I'll make noodles with diced meat for you when we get home." As soon as he finished speaking, the situation changed to LIAN, who was pulling him home. Mian then remembered something. There was a woman who kept staring at us when we're eating just now. Who is that? LIAN thought for a moment. Paternal aunt. Oh. Mian's response was flat. At the beginning of their separation from the main family, relatives from everywhere were informed, but none of them went to their house. Those relatives did not care about him and LIAN nor offered to help them out, so he also did not need to care about them. Back home, both of them felt much more comfortable than in the old house. LIAN went directly to the kitchen. What to wash and what to cut? You don't have to, I'll do it. Mian picked a block of pork with fairly fat skin from the beam of the house. The pork was 3 parts fat and 7 parts lean meat, which was suitable for making diced meat. He cut the meat into thin pieces and asked LIAN to make a fire. When the oil in the wok heated up, he poured the diced meat in and constantly stirred. At 30% cooked, Mian added ginger powder and salt to it, and continued to stir fry. At 60% cooked, he added vinegar and stir-fried. At 70% cooked, he added soy sauce and Sichuan pepper. When it was about done, he added a proper amount of chili powder and water to simmer for a while, and only then the diced meat soup could be scooped out of the wok. The meat was soft, tender, and spicy, with bright red oil. When Mian looked at it, he also craved it unbearably. He took a pair of chopsticks to pick up 2 pieces of meat to taste and then praised himself, "I surpassed myself. It's so soft and tender." Upon seeing LIAN staring at his mouth, he took a small bowl, put a few pieces of meat and handed it to him. "Here." LIAN took the bowl, grabbed the chopsticks in his hand and ate the meat in the bowl. Mian looked at him in shocked. "That's my chopsticks." LIAN did not even lift his head. Mian kicked him. "Can't you get another pair?" "What's the difference?" LIAN raised his head and looked at him innocently. Mian's mouth twitched, unable to speak. Could he tell LIAN that, using my chopstick is like kissing me indirectly? The noodles were cooked in another wok. When the noodles were cooked, he dredged up the noodles, poured a spoonful of diced meat soup, added a handful of scallions and stirred them with chopsticks. The appetizing aroma assailed the nostrils. The rest of diced meat soup could be kept for tomorrow. The soup would not go bad since it was cold nowadays. "It's ready to eat." Mian was careful not to spill the soup on the stovetop as he said unhappily. "I'll take it." LIAN beat him to it, lifted the noodles bowl and put it on the dining table. Mian came out from the kitchen after he washed his hands and did not see a figure. After a while, he saw LIAN come out of the utility room with a jug of wine in his hand. He could not help complaining, eating noodles and still want to drink. "It looks good to have with wine." LIAN put down the wine jar, but did not immediately sit down. "Wife, have a drink too." No. Mian shook his head. LIAN then took a wine cup, poured and drank for himself. Mian had nothing to do, so he sat beside LIAN and watched him eat. LIAN seemed to be in a good mood. He tasted the wine leisurely and ate the noodles slowly. Watching him, Mian felt an anxious itch to feed him. He was really bored. He simply went to the kitchen and took a pair of chopsticks to eat the meat in LIAN's bowl. "This is my noodles," LIAN said. Mian provocatively put 4 pieces of meat into his mouth at a time, then asked, "What's the difference?" LIAN shook his head. Mian complacently picked out all the meat in LIAN's bowl and ate it. LIAN said nothing. Holding a white porcelain wine cup in his left hand and chopsticks in his right hand, he helped Mian find the meat in the noodles. Mian's cheeks heated up. He put down his chopsticks and suddenly stood up. He ran to the settee and lay down. His heart was pounding. He did not dare to look at Lei Tie anymore. Lei Tie stared at him for a long time before taking back his gaze. He turned the wine cup upside down and concentrated on eating the noodles. The noodles had been soaked in the soup for too long and were already soggy, but he still thought it was delicious. He even drank up the soup. At dawn, after Mian and Lei Tie washed up and went to the old house early. In addition to Du Shi, Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Zhao Shi, Qian Shi, and the 3 children, there was also Lei Daqiang's eldest brother's family, which consisted of Lei Dagong, Lei Dagong's wife, their 2 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, 2 grandsons and 2 granddaughters. Lei Daqiang and Lei Dagong had some conflicts when they separated during those years. The relationship between their 2 families was only so-so, and they were also not familiar with each other. They only paid a visit when there were festivals, weddings, and funerals. The room was full of people who were chatting when they saw 2 people walking in side by side. They were impressed and simultaneously fell into silence. The man on the left was tall, with hair as black as ink. He wore a right lapel azure wide robe and a black cowhide belt on his waist with a red peace knot hanging from it. He looked austere and his paces were steady where within each foot lift, it faintly revealed his hard-to-ignore demeanor. The youth on the right was handsome with eyes as black as lacquer. He wore a sky-blue arrow sleeves robe, covered with a black overcoat which cuffs sewn with 2 pieces of pure white rabbit fur and a pair of satin blue ankle boots on his feet. His presence was out of the ordinary that simply made people dazzled and wondered which family's young master had gone to the wrong door. Zhao Shi, Qian Shi, Lei Chuntao and several other women were in a daze. Lei Xianggren's eyes fell on Lei Tie and his mood became complicated. His eldest brother was older than him but actually looked several years younger than him. If Lei Tie did not have that scar on his face, he would be even more handsome and charming. At the bottom of his heart, he could not help but feel a bit jealous. When he caught a glimpse of Zhao Shi and found her in a daze, he sulked. He lifted his foot and kicked her leg hard. Zhao Shi thought it was accidental. She rubbed her leg as she grumbled, "What are you thinking?" Lei Xiangren snorted without speaking. After Lei Tie looked around the room, he pulled Mian to an inconspicuous corner and sat down. Mian also swept a glance around and did not see the bride. Du Shi sat anxiously on the main seat, a little absent-minded, but was staring fiercely at the closed door of the bridal room. This time, the door of the room creaked open and a smiling Lei Daqiang walked out together with a wholly clothed in red Wei Shi. Mian looked at Wei Shi and nodded to himself. She was indeed pretty. It was a pity that she was paired with Lei Daqiang. Lei Daqiang went to the main seat and sat down. He said casually, "Everyone is here." Wei Shi looked shy, but her manner was very natural and relaxed. She walked briskly to Du Shi and knelt down to offer her tea. Although both of them were wives and had the same status, Du Shi had married first. This cup of tea should be to honor her. "Please have some tea, Gigi." Du Shi did not respond. She stared at her coldly and said chillingly, "Oh, you still know to wake up? How bold of you to have so many of us waiting for you. Is this the rule of your Wei family?" Wei Shi did not mind the criticism and apologetically said, "I asked husband yesterday and he said that sister usually gets up at the hour of Chen." This Mei was thoughtless. "I didn't expect sister to get up at the hour of Mao. This is my fault and apologized for it. Please have some tea." Note, hour of Chen is 7 to 9 am, hour of Mao is 5 to 7 am. Lei Xiangren and the others embarrassingly bowed their heads in silence. It was true that Du Shi got up early. Before dawn, she moved tables and chairs in the house, and repeatedly knocked on the wok that woke them all up with the noise. Mian soundlessly laughed and glanced at Du Shi with a look of delight in her misfortunes. Du Shi's face looked rigid. What else should she say? Lei Daqiang put on a straight face, "All right, why don't you pick up the tea? She still has to make breakfast later." Du Shi had no choice but to pick up the tea slowly and put it down after a sip. Grudgingly and unwillingly, she took out 2 peachwood hairpins with silver pendants, and brusquely said, "From here on, take good care of the master of the house." "Many thanks, Gigi." Wei Shi politely thanked her and then handed her a pair of exquisite silver bead earrings. "This is a little regard from me. I hope Gigi likes it." The 2 silver beads were not small and it worth at least a silver tael, which was much more valuable than the silver pendant hairpins. Du Shi felt the load in her heart slightly lifted. Zhao Shi's eyes brightened. She walked quickly to Wei Shi and held her arm as she said, "Xiaoniang, I'm the second daughter-in-law. This is eldest uncle and eldest aunt. This is..." For the people of the same generation, Wei Shi gave them blessing ceremony one by one and handed over shoes and purses she made herself. For the younger generation, Wei Shi's first meeting gifts to them were also generous. There was no favoritism as each of them got a silver lock. Qin Mian and Lei Tie also got one each. After acknowledging the new in-laws, Du Shi said impatiently, "All right, go to cook. We're all hungry." The second day, the bride would have to cook breakfast. It was not only to test the bride's ability to manage the family but also to lay the foundation for the bride's life in the new home. Lei Dagong's family stood up and took their leave. Lei Daqiang held back Qin Mian and Lei Tie to have breakfast. Qin Mian wanted to see how things play out, so they stayed. Wei Shi went to the kitchen to cook. Zhao Shi and Qian Shi took the initiative to help her. Qin Mian knew that the 2 women must have gone to get close to Wei Shi. Within an hour, Zhao Shi and Qian Shi began to serve dishes on the table. There were a lot of ingredients left from the wedding banquet yesterday, including meat and vegetables. Wei Shi prepared 10 dishes complete with color, aroma, and flavor. "We can start breakfast." Wei Shi sat down beside Lei Daqiang with a smile. Du Shi said with a straight face, "Wei Shi, you're sitting in the wrong place. What are you doing sitting with the adult men?" "Gigi, that's not right." Wei Shi turned to see Lei Daqiang. "Husband, I feel that since we're all one family, there's no need to separate the women. It's convenient for me to take care of husband when I sit next to you, isn't it?" Lao Er and Lao San sitting together with their wives can also help cultivate their feelings. In the future, they'll give birth to more grandchildren. What does husband think? You're right. Lei Daqiang nodded. From here on, men and women don't have to be divided into 2 tables for a family to eat. I'll sit with your mother, my wife, and Chun Tao, and the rest will sit at another table. Wei Shi warmly invited Du Shi, "Gigi, come and sit here." Du Shi looked livid. She had reached the end of her forbearance, she was about to get angry. Lei Chun Tao hurriedly walked over and pushed her to sit down on the other side of Lei Daqiang and soothed her in a low voice. Wei Shi helped Lei Daqiang picked up dishes as she said with a smile, "Husband, mutton nourishes body, eat more of this. My cooking skills are not bad. Afterwards, I'll make some dishes to supplement your health." "Good, good." Lei Daqiang laughed heartily and all the more felt that marrying this wife was the right thing to do. Lei Xiangren stuffed a small fried pork into his mouth and praised, "Xiaoniang's cooking is really good. I feel the same way." Zhao Shi chimed in, "The vegetables are also well fried. Stir-fried vegetables even need more oil to taste good." Qian Shi murmured, "It would be nice if Xiaoniang cook all the meals afterwards." Lei Xianji glared at her and scolded, "Shut up." He knew that his mother was economical in cooking, so Qian Shi did not dare to speak out loud in front of so many people. Qin Mian shot a glance at Du Shi's glum face and then at Wei Shi's smiling face. He was in a good mood. He was very sure that Du Shi had no time to go find trouble for him and Lei Tie. As for the future of the old house, he did not care. "Taigag, I'm done eating." Lei Tie nodded his head, put down his chopsticks and stood up. "Father, Mother, Xiaoniang, we've finished eating. We'll go back. You all eat slowly." Qin Mian was very polite. Du Shi said nothing. Lei Daqiang just nodded. However, Wei Shi stood up and said with a smile, All right. Come to visit whenever you two have time. End chapter.